15 Now Talking About Cricket by P.G. Wodehouse. In the days of yore, when these white hairs were browner, was it black? At any rate, they were not white, and I was at school. It was always my custom, when fate obliged me to walk to school, with a casual acquaintance, to whom I could not unburden my soul of those profound thoughts, which even then occupied my mind, to turn the struggling conversation to the relative merits of cricket and football. Do you like cricket better than footer was my formula now, though at the time, in order to save fruitless argument, I always agreed with my companion, and praised the game he praised in the innermost depths of my subconsciousness. Cricket ranked a long way in front. Of all other forms of sport, I may be wrong more than once in my career. It has been represented to me that I couldn't play cricket for nuts. My captain said as much, when I ran him out in the match of the season, after he had made 49 and looked like stopping a bowling acquaintance, heartily endorsed his opinion on the occasion of my missing 3 catches off him in one over. This, however, I attribute to prejudice, for the man I missed ultimately reached his century, mainly off the deliveries of my bowling acquaintance. I pointed out to him that had I accepted any one of the 3 chances, we should have missed seeing the prettiest century made on the ground that season. But he was one of those bowlers who sacrifice all that is beautiful in the game to mere wickets, a sordid practice. Later on, the persistence with which my county ignored my claims to inclusion in the team convinced me that I must leave cricket fame to others. True, I did figure, rather prominently too, in one county match. It was at the Oval, Surrey v Middlesex. How well I remember that occasion. Albert Trott was bowling. Birdie, we used to call him. I forget who was batting. Suddenly the ball came soaring in my direction. I was not nervous. I put down the sandwich I was eating, rose from my seat, picked the ball up neatly, and returned it with unerring aim to a fieldsman who was waiting for it. With becoming deference, thunders of applause went up from the crowded ring. That was the highest point I ever reached in practical cricket. But as the historian says of Mr. Winkle, a man may be an excellent sportsman in theory, even if he fail in practice. That's me, reader. If any have you ever played cricket in the passage, outside your study with a walking stick and a ball of paper? That's the game, my boy, for testing your skill of wrist. And I a century v the Roman 1000 Roman 100 Roman 100 is well enough in its way, but give me the man who can watch M in a narrow passage lit only by a flickering gastatone for every hit, 4 if it reaches the end and 6 if it goes downstairs full pitch. Any pace bowling allowed to make double figures in such a match is to taste life. Only you had better do your tasting when the housemaster is out for the evening. I like to watch the young cricket idea shooting. I refer to the lower games, where next man in umpires with his pads on his loins girt and a bat in his hand. Many people have wondered why it is that no budding umpire can officiate unless he holds a bat. For my part, I think there is little foundation for the theory that it is part of a semi-religious rite, on the analogy of the Freemasons' special handshake and the like, nor do I altogether agree with the authorities who allege that man, when standing up, needs something as a prop or support. There is a shadow of reason, I grant, in this supposition. But after years of keen observation, I am inclined to think that the umpire keeps his bat by him, firstly, in order that no unlicensed hand shall commandeer it unbeknownst, and secondly, so that he shall be ready to go in directly his predecessor is out. There is an ill-concealed restiveness about his movements as he watches the batsmen getting set that betrays an overwrought spirit. Then of a sudden one of them plays a ball onto his pad that asks the bowler with an overdone carelessness, clean out, now I am in. And already he is rushing up the middle of the pitch to take possession when he gets to the wicket. A short argument ensues. Look here, you idiot, I hit it hard. Rot, man, out of the way. Look here, Smith. Are you going to dispute the umpire's decision? Chorus of fieldsmen. Get out, Smith. You ass, you've been given out years ago, overwhelmed by popular execration. Smith reluctantly departs, registering in the black depths of his soul a resolution to take on the umpireship, at once with a view to gaining an artistic revenge by giving his enemy run out on the earliest possible occasion. There is a primeval insouciance about this sort of thing, which is as refreshing to a mind jaded with the stiff formality of professional umpires as a cold shower bath. I have made a special study of last-wicket men. They are divided into 2 classes: the deplorably nervous, or the outrageously confident. The nervous largely outnumber the confident. The launching of a last-wicket man, when there are 10 to make to win or 5 minutes left to make a draw of a losing game, is fully as impressive a ceremony as the launching of the latest battleship. An interested crowd harasses the poor victim as he is putting on his pads. Feel in a funk asks some tactless friend. No, Norabit, that's right, says the captain encouragingly. Bowling's as easy as anything. This cheers the wretch up a little, until he remembers suddenly that the captain himself was distinctly at sea with the despised trundling, and succumbed to his second ball, about which he obviously had no idea whatever. At this, he breaks down utterly, and if emotional, will sob into his batting glove. He is assisted down the pavilion steps, and reaches the wickets in a state of collapse here. Very probably, a reaction will set in. The sight of the crease often comes as a positive relief after the vague terrors experienced in the pavilion. The confident last-wicket man, on the other hand, goes forth to battle with a light quip upon his lips. The lot of a last-wicket batsman with a good eye and a sense of humor is a very enviable one. The incredulous disgust of the fast bowler, who thinks that at last he may safely try that slow headball of his, and finds it lifted genially over the leg boundary, is well worth seeing. I remember in one school match the last man, unfortunately on the opposite side, did this 3 times in 1 over, ultimately retiring to a fluky catch in the slips with 41 to his name. Nervousness at cricket is a curious thing. As the author of Willow, the King himself, a county cricketer, has said, it is not the fear of getting out that causes funk. It is a sort of intangible genie size. Qua I trust I make myself clear. Some batsmen are nervous all through a long innings. With others the feeling disappears with the first boundary. A young lady, it is of course not polite to mention her age to the minute, but it ranged somewhere between 8 and 10, was taken to see a cricket match. Once, after watching the game with interest for some time, she gave out this profound truth: they all attend specially to one man. It would be difficult to sum up the causes of funk more lucidly and concisely. To be an object of interest is sometimes pleasant, but when 10 fieldsmen, a bowler, 2 umpires, and countless spectators are eagerly watching your every movement, the thing becomes embarrassing. That is why it is on the whole preferable to be a cricket spectator rather than a cricket player. No game affords the spectator such unique opportunities of exerting his critical talents. You may have noticed that it is always the reporter who knows most about the game. Everyone, moreover, is at heart a critic, whether he represent the majesty of the press or not. From the Lady of Hoxton, who crushes her friend's latest confection with the words, "My Watt," and it down to that lowest class of all the persons who call your attention in print to the sinister meaning of everything. Clytemnestra says in the Agamemnon, the whole world enjoys expressing an opinion of its own about something. In football, you are vouchsafed fewer chances. Practically all you can do is to shout offside whenever an opponent scores, which affords but meager employment for a really critical mind. In cricket, however, nothing can escape you. Everything must be done in full sight of everybody there. The players stand without refuge, simply inviting criticism. It is best, however, not to make one's remarks too loud. If you do, you call down upon yourself the attention of others, and are yourself criticized. I remember once, when I was of tender years, watching a school match, and one of the batsmen lifted a ball clean over the pavilion. This was too much for my sensitive and critical young mind. On the carpet, sir, I shouted sternly, well up in the treble clef, keep on the carpet, I will draw a veil. Suffice it to say that I became a sport and derision, and was careful for the future to criticize in a whisper. But the reverse by no means crushed me. Even now, I take a melancholy pleasure in watching school matches, and saying so-and-so will make quite a fair schoolboy bat in time, but he must get rid of that stroke of his on the off, and that shocking leg hit, and a few of those awful strokes in the slips. But that on the whole he is by no means lacking in promise. I find it refreshing if, however, you feel compelled not merely to look on, but to play, as one often does at schools where cricket is compulsory. It is impossible to exaggerate the importance of white boots. The game you play before you get white boots is not cricket, but a weak imitation. The process of initiation is generally, this one plays in shoes for a few years, with the most dire result running away to square leg from fast balls, and so on till despair seizes the soul. Then an angel in human form, in the very effective disguise of the man at the school boot shop, hints that, for an absurdly small sum in cash, you may become the sole managing director of a pair of white buckskin boots, with real spikes. You try them on, they fit, and the initiation is complete. You no longer run away from fast balls, you turn them neatly off to the boundary. In a word, you begin for the first time to play the game, the whole game, and nothing but the game. There are misguided people who complain that cricket is becoming a business more than a game, as if that were not the most fortunate thing that could happen when it ceases to be a mere business and becomes a religious ceremony. It will be a sign that the millennium is at hand. The person who regards cricket as anything less than a business is no fit companion, gentle reader for the likes of you and me. As long as the game goes in his favor, the cloven hoof may not show itself, but give him a good steady spell of leather hunting, and you will know him for what he is, a mere dilettante, a dabbler, in a word, a worm, who ought never to be allowed to play at all. The worst of this species will sometimes take advantage of the fact that the game in which they happen to be playing is only a scratch game, upon the result of which no very great issues hang. To pollute the air they breathe with verbal, and the ground they stand on with physical buffooneries. Many a time have I, and many a time have you, if you are what I take you for, shed tears of blood at the sight of such careless returns. Overthrows but enough of a painful subject. Let us pass on. I have always thought it a better fate for a man to be born a bowler than a bat. A batsman certainly gets a considerable amount of innocent fun by snicking good fast balls just off his wicket to the ropes, and standing stolidly in front against slow leg breaks. These things are good and help one to sleep peacefully o' nights, and enjoy one's meals, but no batsman can experience that supreme emotion of something attempted, something done, which comes to a bowler when a ball pitches in a hole near point's feet and whips into the leg stump. It is one crowded second of glorious life. Again, the words "retired hurt" on the scoresheet are far more pleasant to the bowler than the batsman. The groan of a batsman, when a loose ball hits him full pitch in the ribs, is genuine, but the awfulest old chapit slipped of the bowler is not half a loaf, is better than no bread, as Mr. Chamberlain might say, and if he cannot hit the wicket, he is perfectly contented with hitting the man, in my opinion. Therefore the bowler's lot, in spite of billiard table wickets, red marl, and such like inventions of a degenerate age, is the happier one. And here, glowing with pride of originality, at the thought that I have written of cricket without mentioning Alfred Minn or Fuller Pilch, I heave a reminiscent sigh, blot my MS, and thrust my pen back into its sheath.